Now it's time for Lefties Losing It, and let's see what one of our favourite lefties is up to. Let's hear from the reliably clueless, or if you prefer, dishonest, Joy Reid. Here she has the nerve to say that it's the Democrats who play by the rules. You know what? This is what the kids call projection.
Well, first of all, Democrats do not play politics the way Republicans do. The difference between the parties, Joy. They do not. They do not.
Please.
Democrats play by the Marquis de Queensberry rules. I think they do not. They're not rule breakers. They couldn't even hold out on a government shutdown because 8 of them turned tail and gave in. Democrats capitulate and they try to play by the rules. Republicans don't care about the rules. They rewrite the rules.
You might have noticed there she was talking with Maury Povich, an incredulous Maury. He's used to crazy, but not Joy Reid levels of crazy. And I guess he wishes he was back hosting his old show. Remember when he just had regular crazy folk?
Okay. In the case of 1-year-old Aaliyah, Bishop, you are the father. In the case of 4-month-old Imani, Maurice, you are the father.
Oh, good times. That was a great show. I mean, that's sort of entertaining crazy we can get behind. Now to Jane Fonda and some dude who's married to a former Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. Here they put together a hilarious skit claiming that if the Paramount-Warner Brothers merger goes ahead, it would turn CNN into a propaganda outlet.
This is Chad Hastings and Leslie Ann Rogers reporting. This news station has just been bought by Paramount.
And tonight we're going to be reporting about the protests in the streets.
No, sorry, that's the wrong script.
Tonight we're going to be reporting on the parties in the street.
Oh, parties. That sounds like fun.
That's right. Citizens have been partying in the streets for months now.
Actually.
Now let's cut to Tony with the weather.
Thanks, Chad. The globe is getting warmer, and who doesn't love warm weather? Back to you.
I guess it's time to break out my Speedo.
This is insane.
Now let's go to Christine Hucklesby with the Money Report.
The economy is great. Back to you.
What has happened to this network? This is wrong. I'm not going to work at a company like
that. Wow. Angry women, so unattractive. Here, let me help you up. There you go. Bye. Wow. And now, back to the party in the streets.
Fantastic work there, Jane. Really, some of her best work. Only we don't have to imagine CNN being an unscrupulous propaganda outlet. They have been that for many years, and we haven't forgotten this. Remember CNN calling the BLM riots a mostly peaceful protest, even as they burned down entire city blocks, attacked people, caused around $2 billion worth of damage. Yeah, remember that. Now, I have some bad news. Sunny Hostin has been reading. She can certainly read, but the comprehension is perhaps not what it needs to be.
I just read that this war is estimated to have already cost us $50 billion. $50 billion, which is more money than this country has spent since World War II. And then in 2027, this president is asking for $1.5 trillion for defense, which would be more money spent in modern history on war.
Why don't they just get rid of him already?
Unbelievable.
50 billion? 50 billion is more money than America has spent since World War II. Is that what she said? It's not even what America spent on the Vietnam War, let alone the trillions, yes, trillions with a T, that America spent on wars in Iraq. And of course, there was also Afghanistan. That was another T, trillions spent. Was Sunny Hostin in a coma during that time? What an incredible thing to say. And as I've said plenty times before, she's either frightfully stupid or lying. There are no other options at this point. And the same can be said about this next clip. Watch Democrat presidential hopeful Pete Buttigieg do nothing to correct the crazy hysteria of a constituent who seems to genuinely think that trans people will be rounded up and put in camps by the Trump administration. Trans concentration camps. That's what she thinks is coming.
Every day I wake up scared because a person I love is trans. And I'm waiting for the day that they start banging on doors and taking our trans and our gay friends and family to concentration camps.
It's horrible that you have to even think about that kind of fear for somebody you care about. And it's horrible that so many Americans live in that kind of fear for themselves and for those they love.
Yeah, they live in that sort of fear because of Democrats like you. Not only does he not correct her, he feeds her fear and hysteria. Just shameful behaviour. And it's from a Democrat who wants to be president. Let's go to a Democrat who was a president, and gosh, what wonderful work he did in dividing the country. You want to see where America's modern race issues started? Then look no further than this guy who has also done a backflip now on the issue of gerrymandering. Let's hear from Barack Obama.
Gerrymandering means citizens' voices are being diminished. By voting yes, you have a chance to do something important, not just for the Commonwealth, but for our entire country. Even a former president, who are joining together to end gerrymandering and ensure that our democracy is living up to its founding promise. By voting yes, you can push back against the Republicans trying to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. And we're counting on you to help ensure a reasonable, transparent redistricting process that honors our ideal of equal representation.
Yep, what the Democrats have done in Virginia is a genuine threat to representative democracy. They have taken the fairest state when it comes to representation and turned it into the unfairest, where the party that has around 52% of the vote is going to control 90% of the seats. Let's go back to the issue of race, and to give you an idea of how racially divisive and toxic the Obama administration was, let's listen to Ashley Allison here, a former Obama White House senior advisor. And here she said the quiet bit out loud. This is an old clip, but it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. She basically said the black community sided with O.J. Simpson because, after all, he only murdered a couple of white people.
But it was so racially charged because of what had happened just before with Rodney King, but also just how Black Americans feel about policing. It's not like O.J. Simpson was the leader of the civil rights movement of his era. You know, he wasn't a social justice leader, but he represented something for the Black community in that moment, in that trial, particularly because there were two white people who had been killed, and the history around how Black people have been persecuted during slavery. There were just so many layers. And I guess I would just close with this, is that there was racial tension then, there is racial tension now. It might not be the backdrop of the Trump campaign, but until this country is ready to actually have an honest conversation about the racial dynamics from our origin story till today, we will always have moments like O.J. Simpson that manifest, and our country will always be divided if we don't actually deal with the issue of race.
I think the very last thing Ashley Allison wants is a true reckoning and honest conversations about race in America. The grift may be over. Now to Bill Maher, who, along with all the other lefties, is happy to lay the boots into Eric Swalwell. He says he always knew Eric was a bit creepy.
Speaking of creepy stuff, have you been following the Eric Swalwell case here in California? This is a very prominent...
I think we're all following it.
A very prominent Democrat. I got to say, we had him on a couple of times. Ask my staff. I never liked him. I don't have good gaydar, but I got creepdar. I always thought this guy was a creep. I never liked him. And yet so many Democrats stood by him. And now that we're finding out that it was such an open secret, you know, I hear this so many times, you know, Bill Clinton, it was an open secret in Arkansas.
Only problem is, if you go back and watch Eric Swalwell with Bill Maher, he gets a pretty sweet run. Now to Hollywood actress Anne Hathaway, who has added a new word to her vocabulary.
Hopefully live for and enjoy a life. I want to have a long, healthy life. Inshallah, I hope so.
Inshallah, okay. And that has got her a lot of attention, and she's also now getting Qurans on the red carpet.
Inshallah, we told you this Quran for you because I saw the video inshallah, and I was anyway thinking to give you that, and then I saw that, I said, you know what, give it to her. I love you so much. I need all your...
She was very appreciative indeed. I wonder if she'd be as gracious if she was handed a Bible on the red carpet. Now to a friend of this program, Alex Stein. He's our second favourite Texan. appears every Monday. Now, he tried to have a debate with a lefty losing it, but got a death threat instead. I mean, these people are just awful.
But I'm saying I want to live in a meritocracy and not in a place that you get a job.
In what way was she given the vice presidency role?
Because he purposely said that I need to pick a woman.
I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president.
Right, and so what I'm trying to
they're qualified for the job.
And whatever, conversation is a conversation.
All right.
Watch out for a hole in the neck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Talking about awful, here is an old granny going off about Donald Trump. What else? And also, what is it about the left and violence? They've got a problem.
Are you happy now? He did it. He dropped those bombs. I hope you are listening, you MAGA maggots. I cannot stand him.
Oh, she's a charming lady, isn't she? She's almost as charming as this next TikToker.
I want him DEAD, head on a stake, dead. I want him dragged through the streets. Okay? I want his ass dragged. I want him gutted. I want his entrails in the road. A whole civilization will... I want the I do. I do. Oh, Jules, you shouldn't say that. I don't get I want him
And talking about the left and violence, here's an elementary school teacher sharing his violent fantasies about Trump with the world. Now just imagine this creep teaching your kids.
People are saying it's going to happen this weekend and they're buying champagne or whatever, but I want to remind everybody that we need to make sure that they don't bury it. We need to hang it out front of the White House for the birds to pick clean. And then once it's picked clean, we need to bronze it and install it over the entryway to the White House so that the next person who gets in there knows what's coming for them. And if they try to take it down, they can replace it.
To Florida now, where changes to the food stamp program are leaving some users irate. They can't even get free ice cream anymore.
No sodas. You can't get your coffee creamer. You can't even get ice cream. That's wrong. What am I to do? That's wrong. Somebody needs to do something about this. I know it's affecting everybody. I eat healthy. I love my fruit. I love my sweets.
Let's now hear from some lefties in the wild, terribly triggered by comments made about the Iranian regime. Of course, they see any criticism of the murderous mad mullahs of Iran as a sign of white supremacy because they assume the comments were made by Donald Trump. But the comments were actually made by Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. This is a great insight into the mind of the rusted-on lefty.
Iran is a destabilizing, dangerous force in the Middle East. Do you agree with him on that at least?
No.
We would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that. What do you think he meant by saying those people?
White supremacy. His subhuman people of color.
He's becoming very delusional and honestly showing a little bit of signs of dementia.
This is something someone with dementia would say.
Absolutely.
Had Kamala actually won the election, do you think we would even be in this?
Absolutely not. If he had a kind soul, I think anyone can be beautiful, but he is not beautiful. No. He's not beautiful inside or out. He's a horrible person.
And now watch the reactions as Caitlin Bennett tells them the inconvenient truth. The comments they found so abhorrent, the comments they deemed a sign of white supremacy and madness, were actually made by the Democrats they voted for.
The man truly is insane.
Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris said all of that, not Donald Trump.
Really?
Yes.
That makes me very sad.
Are you serious or not?
Yes, they are.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a gotcha. Good for you.
You've never heard them say this stuff?
No, I haven't.
That was a quote from 2008, right here.
To it. I don't, you know what, who can believe what we read?
Did you go to the cops about me?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you needed a permit.
I didn't mean to make you cry.
I'm crying, but
Okay.
it's shameful.
What's shameful about it? There's nothing...
Wow, and they were saying who was being ugly on the inside and out. Let's bring in documentary filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, seems like a lot of these Democrats can't handle the truth.
Yeah, look, it's not interest. It's not really. They can't handle the truth. The reality is, this just reflects what's happened more broadly within the Democratic Party, in that they have moved to a post-colonial, anti-American, anti-Western, what was normally fringe positions into mainstream Democratic thinking, and this kind of reflects that. And it's that in a combination of Trump derangement syndrome, right? That's really what it comes down to. Look, let's go over the highlights of what, like, they're taking pro-Iranian positions, right? Let's go over the highlights. Iran has involved themselves directly or through support. Iran bombed the Marine barracks bombing, killing 245 Marines. They bombed the Beirut embassy, a U.S. embassy. They killed 85 Jews in the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires. They killed the Iraqi insurgency based on Iran, killed 600 American soldiers, not to mention the 1,200 dead Jews on October 7th, and also, obviously, the almost 100,000 Iranians they've killed. None of that matters to the Democrats, okay? The Democrats, really, I am rarely shocked. Democrats have universally, with the exception of John Fetterman, supported the Iranian position over the U.S. position, okay? They've parroted Iranian talking points. Chris Murphy retweeted a post that said, thankfully, Iran is now transiting the Strait of Hormuz. And what did Chris Murphy retweet back? Awesome. Awesome, he said. Yeah. Okay? Representative Adam Smith of Washington said he trusts the Iranians over Donald Trump. This is the situation we find ourselves with the Democratic Party vis-a-vis Iran and vis-a-vis globally, how we look at the world.
Well, on the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is not respecting the ceasefire. They have attacked commercial vessels in the strait, and they are claiming, Army, that the US blockade of Iranian ports is a breach of the ceasefire deal. How do you see this?
Bullpucky. I want to use a different word, but I'm going to be PC for our television audience. Of course, it was never part of the deal. Why would, just think about it, why would Trump give up his single largest leverage point, right? The economic pressure points that he was putting on Iran for this deal? Of course he never did. In fact, part of the reason why he wanted to keep the ceasefire was dependent on keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, which is what the U.S. warships were there to do. So, of course, that was not part of the deal. Just another Iranian lie that, of course, Democrats will parrot. Look, people think that time is working against the president, when actually it's completely the opposite. Time is completely against Iran and for the president. First of all, the president has 3 more years. He's not up for re-election, okay? Secondly, we can handle this financially way more than the Iranians can. The Iranians are I would say they're on the cusp of economic destruction. They're way past the cusp. They're well into financial destruction. And of course, the pressure on the president and the U.S. by the Europeans and others is far less than the pressure on the Iranians, including the people, the countries in their neighborhood, and of course, more importantly, the Chinese, who really want this to just go away. So yeah, could not be farther from the truth.
Now, we spoke yesterday about Iran's plans to execute a number of women arrested after protests across the nation. Donald Trump demanded the women's release in the lead up to peace negotiations, and there seems to be some positive news there with that pressure working. 4 of the women will reportedly be released immediately, while another 4 will serve 1-month prison terms. So that is some positive news out of that conflict. Let's talk about this absolute threat to democracy in Virginia, Army, the gerrymandering that would see a state where the Democrats recorded just a narrow win, basically have no Republican representation. There's now pressure on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to give the Democrats a taste of their own medicine, and those calls are going to only get louder after this gloating from Hakeem Jeffries.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out.
And now let's hear from the Florida Governor, Ron DeSantis. He had this to say in response.
Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries, everywhere around this state. Voters will not like what they see. They will not want that type of ideology. And so the door is open. The invitation's out there. I don't think there'd be anything better for the Republican Party of Florida but to have Jeffries there.
Explain to my audience what this redistricting, gerrymandering means. Even as a Virginia court earlier today declared the state's redistricting vote was actually unconstitutional.
Yeah, so what this is, okay, first of all, every 10 years after the census, there's what we call redistricting, which is normal political behavior because there's inflows, there's outflows from every state. So therefore, you have to rebalance the books essentially to make sure that your representation reflects the population of your state, right? That's normal politicking. Gerrymandering is taking that to an extreme, right? It was started by Elbridge Gerry, who was the governor of Massachusetts. As they took his name, Gerry, actually his name was Gary, but who cares? I won't let that give away a good story. And he redistricted Massachusetts, and it looked like a salamander. So that's where they get gerrymandering from. So what essentially it means is every district has the same exact population across the United States, right? Then you have your number of districts based on the number of population you have in your state. What this does is, let's say you have 3 districts in your state, right, just to keep the math easy, and there are 3 competitive districts. So what you do is you make one of those districts a total landslide for your opposition, and you take the other 2 districts and make them safe districts. So you split it out so that you can guarantee yourself 2 out of 3, and therefore you control the state. That's what gerrymandering is. Both sides have done it for many, many years. And I don't like it. It's not good for our democracy. I think both sides should quit it. But the Democrats, right? The party of democracy. This is the party that wants to pack the Supreme Court. This is the party that wants to add D.C. and Puerto Rico so they can institutionalize Democratic victory in the Senate for years to come, right? So when they keep referencing Texas as why they're doing this. Well, when Texas redistricted, 63%, they redistricted 2. Now Texas Republicans have 63% roughly of the seats in the House. But that reflects a 58% vote. So 58% and 63, not that far apart. In Virginia, the House vote went 51% to the Democrats, but now they have 90% of the House seats. That just shows you the difference in extremes between the 2 sides. So yeah, you can say it was Texas that did this. And I would say, well, before Texas, we had Massachusetts, and we had Oregon, and we had Illinois, and I can go on and on and on. So I'm sick of this. This is not good. What we're going to end up having is every slightly blue state will become extraordinarily blue, and every slightly red state, extraordinarily red. Not good for competitive balance. I'm not a fan of it from either side.
Well, yeah, it's not great for representative democracy, but if Virginia and other blue states are going to behave in that manner, then you're going to have to expect the red states to do the same, that their voters will demand it. Otherwise, it makes a complete mockery of the representative system. And the Democrats, what they've done in Virginia really is quite shameful. Those percentages you said are 100% accurate. They're getting just over 50% of the vote, but 90% of the seats. Figure that out. Now to the Southern Poverty Law Centre, as we covered that story last night, they've been indicted for allegedly funneling millions to the hate groups they're supposedly fighting. Here is Acting US Attorney General Todd Blanche.
According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
It seems the SPLC paid millions to racist extremists to spread hate that the SPLC then used to get more donations.
It's great for them because they've raised tens of millions of dollars on the back of this. Yeah, they didn't pay, again, understand the scope of what we're talking about here. They were paying neo-Nazis, the KKK, not thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands. By the way, hundreds of thousands would have shocked me. Like you said, millions of dollars, okay? Now, to give you a sense of the Southern Poverty Law Center and what they represent, they are a massive bulwark for the left and Democratic Party when it comes to race, right? Since 2010, they've been referenced over 700 times by the New York Times in reference to issues around race, including Unite the Right, right, which I'll get to in a second. And every time you hear, whenever there's a terrorist bombing, right, by Islamic fundamentalists, you always hear from the Democrats, but white supremacy is a much, much bigger problem in our country. Yeah, break those numbers down. They all come from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they're all bullcrap, okay? Southern Poverty Law Center, not to make this about me, but I do like make things about me sometimes. They have attacked me a number of times. They've attacked close friends of mine, Dennis Prager, David Horowitz. None of these people are extremists in any way, shape, or form, and family members of mine. So this, to me, is a delicious thing that happened. But look, there's a supply and demand problem with racism, okay? Is that the demand outstrips the supply. The demand from the left outstrips the reality of the supply in the country. Racism is not a significant problem in this country, nor is anti-Semitism, by the way. It happens, okay, but we're not an anti-Semitic country, nor are we a racist country. But that puts people like Southern Poverty Law Center out of business. So they have to create the supply to feed the demand. And that's what they did. And Unite the Right was the single largest example of that, where they made bank on that. They were referenced as leaders in this over and over again and raised money on the back of it as they're literally paying people to shuttle people to these events. That's how deep and dark this thing got.
I hope the full calamity is exposed when this trial gets underway. Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
We spoke about this last night, but the controversy is still raging. Meghan Markle has been branded tasteless and disrespectful after it was revealed that the outfit from her visit with Bondi terror attack survivors had been listed and then quietly removed from an AI fashion platform. Upon meeting first responders and survivors of the Bondi terrorist attack last week, this image was uploaded to the platform one-off, promoting Markle's Bondi outfit valued at over $3,000. However, online backlash prompted the original post to be removed, with this solo photo of the Duchess waving as she stepped out of her Range Rover. Joining me now is host of the Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered podcast, Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, is this a Meghan Markle stuff up, or is it one of her staff? I mean, is someone getting sacked for this?
Well, nobody's getting sacked for this. It seems like people flee before they're fired when it comes to Harry and Meghan. But this isn't a one-off mistake. This is a pattern we've observed with the Sussexes. Whether it's Meghan Markle or her team, someone thought it was appropriate to monetize a moment with terror attack survivors and victims. And that's where the public draws a really hard line. You can't blend humanitarian optics with influencer behavior and expect no backlash. Quietly deleting it just confirms they knew it crossed a line. And for me and for a lot of other people, too little, too late.
Well, it's a pretty obvious mistake to be making, you've got to say. Now, it's been revealed that actress Sydney Sweeney's role in the upcoming Devil Wears Prada 2 sequel was scrapped due to creative decisions. She only had a minor role at the start of the film, but it was reportedly cut because it did not work structurally with the rest of the film. Kinsey, do you buy that explanation, or has this got to do with the blowback from her American Eagle campaign?
You know, I suspect it has more to do with the overall rumor that Sweeney is a conservative, which is not a very popular club in Hollywood or in the fashion industry. But the studio claims it's just story-related editing. Films get reshaped in post-production all the time, and smaller roles are usually the first to end up on the cutting room floor. But Sydney is a bankable name right now. So if anything, I hope it was about story structure and not some sort of punishment.
Now, staying with the film, some have deemed a scene racist because it includes a nerdy character named Jin Chow, played by Asian American actress. Let's have a look at the scene.
I'm Jin Chao. I'm your new assistant.
Cool, I was wondering about that. Nice to meet you.
I was an intern this morning, but when a desk opens up, the interns get a chance to interview. And guess what? Nobody wanted to work in your department because it's not actual fashion. So I just got it. Isn't that cool?
Very.
You don't want me.
I didn't say that.
If you don't want me, you can interview someone else. That's totally fine. I did go to Yale, 3.86 GPA, lead soprano of the Whiff and Poops, and my ACT score was 36 on the very first try, but...
No, you seem great. I'm happy to have you.
Kinsey, do you think that character or the scene, do you see any problem with it? I've got to say, I'm not seeing any problems. I'm a little bit bored, but I'm not seeing any problems.
Yeah, bored. A lot of overreacting here. I mean, her name was mistakenly believed to have been Chin Chow, which caused a lot of trouble online. But no, what is why are they triggered? Because she's smart, adorable, cute, kind of anxious. That describes any intern, no matter what their background is. So I think that this is must be some sort of misunderstanding. But I'm like, no, that little girl's cute. And you know what? I've never seen her before. This role will change her life. So just sit down. Let her have her moment.
Absolutely. Now, Anne Hathaway, star of The Devil Wears Prada 2, we just saw her there. She's raised some eyebrows by incorporating this word into her repertoire.
Hopefully live for and enjoy a life. I want to have a long, healthy life. Inshallah, I hope so.
Inshallah, indeed, Kinsey. That was an interesting choice. And I showed before a fan gave her a Quran on the red carpet.
I mean, I feel like this is kind of associated with what we were talking about with Sydney Sweeney. When Anne Hathaway uses a phrase like that, it raises eyebrows because Hollywood picks and chooses which cultures it treats as sacred. There's a real double standard here. Some traditions get handled with extreme care. Others get treated like punchlines or props. If you think about Christianity and just overall having conservative values, audiences are going to notice things like this. I'm glad you're pointing it out.
Now, American country music star Ella Langley is the latest celebrity the deranged left are trying to cancel after it was revealed that she follows the Charlie Kirk show on TikTok, and she is going to be doing a duet with Morgan Wallen, who's also known to be conservative. And these two are the two biggest country music stars in the world, Kinsey. It's not a surprise they're collaborating. But tell me about this latest outrage.
Well, first of all, I can say I don't really think anybody that's complaining is their demo. So I feel like they're in a safe space. But do you remember when it was okay to be friends with people you might disagree with and curiosity was a sign of intelligence? This is the modern celebrity minefield. Ella is being criticized not for her work, which is genius, but for who she follows. And at some point, audiences have to decide if they're judging art or policing social media. Right now, the line is very blurry. But I don't really think it's going to have a negative effect on either one of these two. I think they're going to be just fine.
Well, Choosing Texas, her latest big hit, was #1. So I don't think she really cares what a few
Wait, Rita,
lefties.
Who's your first favorite Texan? Because I'm a Texan. So Alex is your second. Who's your first favorite Texan?
Well, I can't reveal that because you're equal second too. You and Alex are up there together. But you're always in California. I don't even think of you as true Texan. You've got to move back.
Well, I'm wearing cowboy boots. I'm wearing cowboy boots.
Well, it helps. That helps a little bit. Now, a clip has gone viral of Mariah Carey struggling to hit those high notes while practicing for her performance.
There's a hero if you look inside your heart.
Kinsey, at least she's singing. It's not just a backing track. She doesn't seem to be using auto-tune, or it's not working there. She's at least trying to put in a performance. Has the voice gone, though? Let's be honest.
We don't know the circumstances here. I mean, I truly haven't heard her sing live in such a long time. But like, to your point, I do appreciate and I celebrate the fact that she's given it her all. But, you know, if I were her, I'd sit back, I'd look at all the trophies on my shelf. I'd look at the list of all the successful songs I'd contributed to writing. And I'd just say, I'm going to let Sabrina Carpenter or whoever and enjoy the limelight. And I'm just going to enjoy all of my piles of money that I've accumulated over the years. I don't know if we need, if this is what we're getting, I don't know if that needs to be on tour.
Well, the same thing happened with Whitney right at the end. The voice went and she was getting booed at some concerts. And yeah, you don't want the legends to be remembered that way. Go out on top. Now, the king of pop, talking about legends, Michael Jackson, is the latest musical star to be remembered in a musical motion picture, but the reviews have not been good. The film, which stars his nephew Jafar, sits at a measly 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. And Kinsey, one of the criticisms of the film has been the decision not to include the child abuse allegations that rocked the latter part of Jackson's career.
Yeah, I mean, I even heard Paris Jackson kind of hinting at this in a video online, suggesting, like, look, I'm really not associated with it. I understand that someone else has painted a very different picture from the reality, kind of hinting at the scandals of the past. But you can't tell the story of Michael Jackson without addressing the most controversial chapters. We expect transparency, not selective storytelling. There's no happily ever after here. And when you omit something that's significant and undermines the credibility of the entire project, I ask myself constantly if I believe those claims. That's something that I still, am frustrated and worried about. You cannot leave that out of a movie about this man's life.
Absolutely, I agree. I'm with you. I don't have a definitive position on what I believe happened. I've heard both sides, and both sides have got some compelling points, but you can't make a motion picture like that and not include it. Even if you take his family's approach that these allegations weren't true and show that side of it, or stay somewhere in the middle. You can't just ignore a massive part of history that we're all aware of already. Kinsey Schofield, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time tonight.